Tastemakers was funded in part by
It all comes down to creating something unique. It's important to take pride in one's work and share expertise. Edward Jones is proud to support the craftspeople who define the maker movement.
Here in Hawaii, sugarcane used to dominate the economy, but tourism has supplanted agriculture, and now resorts have been built in a lot of the old sugarcane fields. But a little bit of that sugary history remains, so come along with me in this episode of Tastemakers to the island of Oahu, where Kō Hana Distillers is growing dozens of varieties of ancient sugarcane to make Agricole rum. I'm Kat Neville, and for the past 2 decades, I've been telling the story of local food. In that time, American food culture has exploded in tiny towns and big cities from coast to coast. In Tastemakers, I explore the maker movement and take you along for the journey to meet the makers who define the flavor of American cuisine. Once known as the reed that produces honey without bees, sugarcane is the most widely cultivated crop on Earth. It is the base of a range of products, including granulated sugar and ethanol, and also rum, which is what brought us here to the beautiful island of Oahu.
I moved here in 2008, and this became my new home, Hawaii. I've been an entrepreneur on and off all my life, and in making this my home, I started trying to figure out what to do, like what kind of business would I want to start in Hawaii. And so sugarcane came about because I became very interested in agriculture, and so I just started doing agricultural research. I came up here to talk to the experts in agriculture. And after a little while of talking, they said, oh, well, Hawaii is the best place in the world to grow sugarcane. In fact, the best yields, best conditions, best everything. And I was like, well, but there's not really much sugarcane left here. So I thought, well, gosh, maybe there's an opportunity with that decline. I frankly didn't really know much about Agricole rum when I started. But it was the history of Agricole rum that fascinated me while I was doing the research into rum and plants, and like, well, what's going to work? So Agricole-style rum is made only from fresh pressed cane juice. That's the core ingredient of what we do. We're a French style with an American Hawaiian twist.
The Polynesians brought sugarcane to Hawaii about 1,000 years ago, and during the 19th century, sugarcane production dominated these islands. But during the 20th century, sugarcane production plummeted as the tourism industry exploded, and in fact, the last sugarcane plantation shut down in 2016. So it's left to small farms like this one here at Kō Hana to keep the cultivation of cane alive.
Hawaiian sugarcane, which is called Kō, K-O, was brought here 1,000 years ago by the native Hawaiian seafarers as an important part of their culture. And you imagine if you get on a boat and a canoe and you're going to go out through 3,000 miles of open ocean, you're only going to take with you those things that are very meaningful. And as it turns out, Kō, sugarcane, was one of them.
When sugarcane got here, it was going to be used not in the more traditional sort of sense from the Western ideals, but instead for just day-to-day survival, drought prevention, religious ceremonies, medicinal uses, a myriad of different uses. When you're thinking about the history of Hawaii, you've got Hawaiians growing what they need to survive. Then you've got contact with the West, you've got sort of propagation of these plants that are now going to be used for commodities, for money. And as that timeline goes forward, you gain a lot of wealth, and then it becomes better to do it somewhere else from the bookkeeping side of things, and it goes away.
I mean, 100 years ago, all of these islands were covered in sugarcane. I mean, we had a lot of pineapple here too, but all the islands were sugarcane. I mean, that was the biggest part of the economy. And the Hawaiian canes all sort of disappeared into botanical gardens and private collections and things like that. And people started to forget about what they were. And to me, that was sad. I had no idea. I just figured the sugarcane was around. And when I decided to start a farm, I would have to, get one sample. Like I'd get one stalk of cane and cut it and plant it. And then as soon as it grew, I'd cut it and plant it again and increase the volume of cane. It took about a year to get about 17 different varieties in the ground. And then it took years and years and years of propagation beyond that to grow the farm. But I couldn't possibly say this could have even been done without the help of not only the Hawaiian Agriculture Research Center, but just all the people involved in agriculture and Hawaiian history that were instrumental to us being able to do it. And I think we have the most comprehensive collection of native Hawaiian sugarcane in the world, just in our own farms. And I've had many people tell me, that they didn't know. Oh, I had no idea that sugarcane was a Hawaiian product. We always thought it was just brought here by the mills. And I just feel really happy that I could, in this place that I'm now calling home, that I have made some small impact in reintroducing something that I think is very important and lost up until now.
Kō Hana is a field-to-glass distillery, but it's a farm first. They cultivate 34 distinct varieties of sugarcane, and they preserve each variety's unique character by making rum out of hand-harvested, freshly pressed juice.
Sugarcane grows year-round here, and depending on when you plant, seasonally, it matures at different times. So we can stagger our plantings so that we're harvesting year-round. We only grow and harvest in single varietals. We have about 11 different ones growing in mass in our fields with the goal to have all 34 acres of each one. They look different, they smell different, and they taste different. And that comes through in the rums we make as well.
Robert and I are standing here in the fields, and what variety of sugarcane is this?
It's interesting. So this is actually a varietal called Pilimai. And so all this cane, and we've got acres and acres of this cane now, literally came from what looked like a little dead piece of seed stock that we put into a pot, and just nursed back to health.
Amazing. So how long did it take you to essentially assemble this library of heritage varieties of sugarcane?
Probably the actual process started in late 2009, and really it's still ongoing. We're still looking and still always open to trying to find out which ones are authentically Hawaiian through genetic testing.
Sure.
So there's a lot of work to be done yet, and we're super excited about doing it.
So you hand harvest everything, your team does here on the farm. And why hand harvest?
Well, I mean, honestly, we're still a very small farm, and we want to be able to protect the cane because we regrow it in the sort of more traditional Hawaiian style. We're cutting it like a grass and allowing it to come back. So if you look at a piece of sugarcane up close, it's got buds on it. And that's what springs up. And so what we do is we cut this, and you'd cut it so you had 3 buds like this. That's a piece of seed. That's seed for sugarcane. It's got a bud here and a bud here. You'll plant it in the ground, only inches of dirt over it. I mean, just enough you kick over it. Give it water, it springs back and becomes essentially a clone of itself.
Wow. So this field behind us was harvested today, and the canes are going to be gathered up, they're going to be juiced. They're harvesting 4 or 5 days a week. So you're constantly pulling things out.
Right.
But standing here, we're surrounded by this 10-foot tall cane, so it must grow so fast.
It grows very, very fast. Like the field we cut right here, if you come back in a week, you'll see what they call keiki, which is the Hawaiian word for child. The little sprigs coming up from where it had been before, just within a week.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really, it's like mowing your lawn, honestly. This is a grass. It's a grass.
Good thing my lawn doesn't look like this.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
much as 98% of the rum in the world is made from molasses. And molasses is an industrial byproduct of the manufacture of sugar. But it's incredibly cheap because the mills make it and they don't know what to do with it. I mean, it's how rum came to be to begin with. And some very intrepid entrepreneurs in Barbados said, wait a minute, there's still a lot of sugar in this. Let's distill it, let's make alcohol. So rum had been made for hundreds of years with molasses. And the French were really the first ones to say, no, let's not do it that way. Let's treat sugarcane as a fruit and let's make rum the way we make cognac. And that's how Agricole rum came to be.
So I'm standing here with Chandra. I'm just outside of Kō Hana, and she's going to essentially take us on a journey through rum. This is kind of a rum 101 class.
Yes, so we have 4 different white rums today. So this first one that we're trying, I wanted to show you a molasses base. This is actually going to be Bacardi Superior. So
It has a more complex flavor than it does aroma.
Yes, the aromatics are almost nothing, but really on the palate you get a hint of that vanilla, a little creaminess, but it is essentially aged rum with just the color taken out of it.
Oh, interesting. All right.
So the next one we have is Banks 5 Island. So this is actually 21 different rums, molasses and kind of agricole blended together from 6 different distilleries from 5 different islands.
Oh, wow.
So different, isn't it?
Yes. It doesn't have that vanilla sweetness
No.
to it. I mean, a little
No.
bit, a hint. It almost has a medicinal kind of a
Yes.
flavor to it. It's so different.
So Rum JM is really the most iconic distillery in Martinique. Typically the French-speaking islands in the Caribbean are the ones that produce this style of rum, which is called agricole. So this is the fresh pressed sugarcane juice that is then fermented and distilled.
That is very hot.
Yeah, it is 100 proof.
Okay.
So you're correct. But even though it is very big, after you sip it, it's very mouth-filling.
Absolutely. And to me, this is much more complex than
Yes.
the molasses-based
Yes,
rums. It has
very
a
much
lot
so.
more going on, like layers of flavor, and transports you there. It's so fun. That's awesome. Okay.
So in comparison, we have another agricole, but this one is produced right here where we are. This is Kō Hana, and this is the varietal Kea. You almost get that feeling of when you're walking the cane fields in the glass.
I love that.
Isn't it wonderful?
It really is wonderful, and it's kind of soft.
It is.
It's not like the other agricole, which kind of like hit your palate like with a sharpness.
Right.
And then again, the layers of flavor, there's so much going on, and it's herbal, and it still has a sweetness. You can't get a rum to taste like this anywhere else in the world.
Exactly.
Only right here in Hawaii.
That's right.
We're standing in the actual distillery here at Kō Hana, and the aroma is so distinct. How would you describe what this smells like?
Heaven, I think, is the best way to describe it. There's just something so beautiful about a fresh product like this, because all we're doing here is we got that sugarcane juice, we're just throwing yeast into it. There is nothing else that goes into it. There's no additives. It's just so beautiful that we're able to just take that one product for a minute and just let it go.
Sugar just tastes like one thing, it tastes like sugar. But sugarcane juice, and having that juice from these different varieties, how much variation do you have in flavor and aroma?
It's about the same variation that you have in wine. So when you think of different grapes, it's, you know, we have the same kind of thing. There's a couple thousand different varieties of sugarcane, but we stick to those Hawaiian canoe crops that were brought over.
Once you have the fermented sugarcane juice, then what do you do?
So once the juice hits full attenuation, it'll be pumped over into the pot still. And we do 500-gallon washes. So from that 500 gallons, we'll get about 50 gallons of good spirits out of it. And from there, we can do a couple of different things. Any of our white expressions, we will rest in the stainless steel for a minimum of 90 days. But then we also have a barrel house that will do all of our barrel aged resting.
So I'm standing here in the barrel room with Kyle, and we've already had a chance to taste the unaged spirit with Chandra, but now we're gonna play around with what age does for this rum.
Indeed, it's time to talk about maturity. Let's talk about letting these spirits go from being natural, grassy, funky to now letting something else interact with it. So this wood is gonna take that beautiful white spirit, add color, add flavor, tiny bit of what I really dislike referring to as like smoothness. You get that, all of those things.
And is this a spent bourbon barrel?
These are, yeah. So we
Okay.
have multiple spent bourbon barrels. You've got new American oak, you've got used bourbon, wine casks, Madeira. The cool part about rum being the Wild West of the spirits world and not having a ton of rules is you can mold it into what you want it to be.
Yeah, that's great. So what are we gonna try first?
All right, so we're gonna try our aged spirit, which is called Koho, which means to select, choose, or vote. This gets bottled right at 90 proof. And hopefully you're gonna pull notes of vanilla, maybe a little bit of baking spice, but still get some of that grassiness on the back end.
Oh, wow. This is a completely different spirit from the clear, unaged version. It does have that kind of warm baking spices character that you get from bourbon, which I love bourbon, but it still has that funky, grassy thing happening that you get from that Agricole rum. It's a really unique combination.
I agree, and it's cool to be able to have something that is familiar, but it challenges a little bit. And I think that's what aged Agricole rum can do. It gives you notes that you already know you like, but then it takes you to somewhere a little bit new. And that's what we like to do.
So when we arrived a couple days ago, there was a Japanese magazine crew in here taking photos of this barrel and what you guys are doing with it. This is really unique, and it's made from koa wood, which is native to Hawaii, correct?
Yeah, so koa is actually endemic. So unlike the ko, which was brought here with the first Hawaiians, koa was on the back of birds. So quite literally, this endemic acacia wood has been here ever since.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so how is the flavor of this wood different from oak that you're gonna find in a typical barrel?
So what's really interesting about what we're doing is we're using oak first and then finishing in this.
Oh.
So because it's such an interesting wood, you're able to add sort of those finishing notes from it. So the notes that you're gonna get off of koa are actually gonna be more savory. It's got this like salinic thing that happens, which is really neat.
Oh, wow. So still cast strength, it's very hot, but the character really has changed. The vanilla has started to recede, and you do have that like spiciness that is really being pushed forward. Oh, wow.
Fun, right?
Yeah.
It's got that like, you know, not at the beach, but at the trees near the beach.
Yes,
thing.
exactly.
It's really cool.
And this is the only place that you could make this.
This is it. Hawaii, koa, I mean, there's nowhere else in the world with it.
And that's a perfect thread of what you guys are really focused on here, which is bringing back the culture of these varieties of sugarcane and kind of reviving what was almost lost, being able to, you know, take that one step further and age it in this endemic wood. It just kind of completes that story.
I completely agree, and the fun part about this too is we're actually able to help reforestation efforts with it by planting more koa as we take from those trees. So we're actually laying down more, what will hopefully become very significant forests alongside of a lot of really cool people. So it's trying to connect a lot of dots.
Bringing back the ko as well as the koa.
Yep, and hopefully a lot of other things.
I love that. And now we're here in Honolulu to meet up with some of the city's top bartenders and hear how they use Agricole Rum's unique flavor to enhance their cocktail list.
The difference to me between Agricole and like a molasses-based rum is flavor. Agricole, you're tasting the earth, you're tasting the cane, you're tasting the sugar, which it doesn't even compare when it comes to molasses. And when you're talking about cocktails and you're trying to achieve a flavor profile, why not use something with more flavor? Or being from Hawaii, it's great pride to share anything from Hawaii, you know? So When I found out about what Kō Hana was doing with what I call canoe cane, it was great because I can share the story over the bar and it creates an experience beyond the taste of a cocktail.
One of my favorite parts of bartending is actually having a conversation with a guest, trying to figure out exactly what mood they're in, what they normally like, how much they want to get out of their comfort zone, and then just trying to create a cocktail that just dials that all in together. To be able to share something that's locally produced, that's actually a quality product, it gives me a huge sense of pride. So anytime that conversation starts, when my eyes light up, and I get really excited about it, to share something that's really special here.
When Kyle introduced me to all the different varietals and the colors and the flavors of it, it surprised me. There's varietals with banana notes, clove notes, like grassy notes, and there's some with like a smoky note to it, which is really cool. As a bartender, I enjoy having a little bit of fun with it.
Here at MW Restaurant in Honolulu, the focus is on refined Hawaiian cuisine, and the pastry chef uses local coffee, chocolate, fruit, and also Kō Hana Rum to enhance her desserts. So tell me how this restaurant is conceived. I know you use a lot of local ingredients.
When we opened this restaurant, we wanted to share a little piece of Hawaii and what makes it so special, and to tell a story to our guests.
You have ingredients coming to you all throughout the year.
Yes, we're pretty fortunate in that way. As I tell people, we have 2 seasons in Hawaii, mango season and non-mango season. But pretty much we can get tomatoes and pineapples and coffee and mushrooms and cheese throughout the year. We have Kō Hana Rum, which I met through Kyle. It's very unique, and you can kind of taste the sugar cane and the fields and the different types of sugar canes that he has. So it's interesting to hear the story and then be able to create a dish with it. Today we're going to make you the mochi baba using his Kō rum, which is his aged rum. Usually a baba is a rum soaked cake, but what we do is we do it with mochi, so you get a little bit chewiness.
Oh, fantastic.
And then we caramelize some pineapple, so it's like pineapple upside down meets the baba, meets the Twinkie, because we fill it with a lilikoi custard, and then you get the creaminess of that and the hot baba with a butter mochi ice cream, which is like a little bit coconut flavored. So you get all the flavors of the islands, and it all complements with the rum. And that's what it's about, to highlight the rum.
That's really cool.
This isn't mine. I mean, this isn't even my culture. And so I feel just blessed to even be allowed to take a small part in it. And we have had a kahuna, who are the keepers of Hawaiian history, bless our cane and really understand what we do. You know, it all started with these canoes and the Hawaiians bringing these beautiful plants here. And then we try to now reintroduce them in a new way with this luxury rum product. And then we teach you not only how we farm and what we grow, but how we do it.
These are just plants. They're just growing how they ought to grow, and so you're not getting in their way. And for us, the most important thing really is they still have every bit of flavor that was originally in them. So instead of just pushing the sugar and getting rid of all of the interesting things that are alongside of that sugar, we don't. We let it just be what it is.
Ko means sugar cane, hana means work. Everything we do is the work of the cane.
From field to glass, we've followed the journey of these ancient varieties of sugarcane that Kō Hana is cultivating, preserving a piece of Hawaii's agricultural past while connecting with the resurgence in artisan distilling. For more information on Kō Hana, as well as all of the other incredible makers that we're featuring in this series, just head to wearetastemakers.com. Thank you for joining me here in Hawaii, and cheers. Connect with us online at wearetastemakers.com or through social media on these handles.
Tastemakers was funded in part by
It all comes down to creating something unique. It's important to take pride in one's work and share expertise. Edward Jones is proud to support the craftspeople who define the maker movement.